Okay, so we've got Royal Commission conclude its findings, and the Commissioner, Kenneth Hayne, here, having its recommendation come out, I think in February this year, 2019, pretty much recommending that mortgage brokers, almost put out of business by saying that he's going to recommend that they or outlaw having them receive trailing commissions, and it'll be a flat fee that will probably put most of them out of business, right? So Josh Frydenberg, who is the Treasurer, and the government says that's okay, we're going to adopt the recommendations, and then they flip. The government flips, the Treasurer over here says, no, we're not going to implement that, although that was one of the main recommendations, because they realized how much that was going to hurt the housing market in Australia. Now, how would it hurt housing market? This is how. If most brokers get out of business, apparently there's about 16,000 of mortgage brokers in Australia, and 60% of loans are written and issued through mortgage brokers. So if they go out of business, 60% of people that used to use their services will have to go back to the banks and get those loans from the banks. And you think, oh, that's okay, that's not a problem, because the money comes from the banks anyway, whether it goes through the brokers or not. But the problem is that, in my opinion and estimation, is that a lot of those 60% of loans being issued through the brokers wouldn't have been approved if people went directly to the banks and one of the other major lenders, because they have stricter rules. So now with all these stricter rules, if the people had to actually go back directly to banks and not through brokers, they wouldn't be able to get the credit that they're able to get now. So the mortgages that would be approved would be a lot smaller. Again, meaning that if there's a house that is $1 million, that in the past a borrower would be able to borrow that money or close to that from or through the broker, once they go to the actual bank, one of the big four banks, for example, they will be knocked back, which means this is one fewer buyer or potential buyer of that property, meaning that further pushes the prices down and they continue to fall. But it gets even better. So Labor says if they come into power, they're not only going to cut capital gain concession for the property investors, they're going to actually go ahead and adopt those recommendations from Kenneth Hayne, right? So they're going to go, all right, we are going to really stuff it up for the investment in housing in Australia, and we are going to essentially put those brokers out of business.
Derailing the mortgage broker gravy train. Fears a Labor government will ban lucrative ongoing commissions. And the Royal Commissioner Kenneth Hayne outraged mortgage brokers when he said they got money for nothing and recommended abolishing the trailing commissions they're paid by lenders. The government at first agreed, but then under duress from brokers, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg backflipped. But a Labor government looks like it will scrap them. It's putting additional strain on brokers already worried about the effects of negative gearing and capital gains changes. Daniel Ziffer reports.
The cooling housing market is one of the key battlegrounds at this election. The major parties are offering starkly divergent policies, and brokers are squaring up for a fight.
It is hard to make a living as a mortgage broker. They're not driving Ferraris.
But making a living as a mortgage broker could be in for a shake-up. Under pressure from the industry, the federal government rejected a key recommendation to scrap trailing commissions. But a Labor government has vowed to ban them. Borrowers also won't pay upfront fees for mortgages, which was a key recommendation at the Banking Royal Commission.
Our model will not be sustainable. They won't make enough money.
Brokers like Pauline Ryan are concerned that killing off the payments will hurt their business model and decrease competition.
I think our remuneration model is excellent, and I think the good brokers grow from looking after their clients. They don't look at what they're going to make first and foremost, they look at what's right for the clients.
Now, coming to the housing tax.
There are more than 16,000 mortgage brokers in Australia. most of them family businesses or operating under the branding of franchises like Aussie Home Loans or Yellow Brick Road. The government and the industry reject the Royal Commission's finding that the way brokers are paid creates a conflict of interest.
There's great fears that if there is a change of government to the Labor Party, that the industry will really be set back, and what that would do is drive people back to the big banks. There is no doubt that mortgage brokers bring competition to the big banks.
They're also worried about Labor's other changes to the housing market. It's vowed to axe negative gearing on all but new properties and reduce the capital gains tax discount from 50% to 25% on properties held for more than a year. Properties bought before next January won't be affected. Labor is unapologetic about changing brokers' pay and says it's for the betterment of consumers.
Commissioner Hayne made some really clear findings that the way that mortgage brokers are remunerated today is not always leading to the best consumer outcomes. So we do need to address that. But Labor does not want to do anything that would put the mortgage brokers out of business.
But brokers, like Michael Williams, fear the changes will slow down the already cooling housing market and increase the power of the big four banks.
If you have a change in system that doesn't make it as attractive to run a mortgage broking industry, that makes it harder to turn a profit, that means you can provide less service to your clients, people will drift back to those same four banks.
The Royal Commission found that broker-initiated loans are larger, longer and more expensive. But people have voted with their feet. Nearly 60% of loans in Australia are settled by brokers. Brokers are fighting changes to the way that they're paid, but both major parties have squibbed a key recommendation that would have imposed a flat fee regardless of whether people used a broker or a bank. With election day still a month away, the certainty of more conflict is safe as houses.
Dan.
Royal Commission has been set up, in my opinion, as smoke and mirrors for the bankers, because I like to simplify things, and that's how I see it. However, they did find following.
The Royal Commission found that broker-initiated loans are larger, longer and more expensive. But people have voted with their feet. Nearly 60% of loans in Australia are settled by brokers. Changes to the way that they're paid. But both major parties have squibbed a key recommendation that would have imposed a flat fee regardless of whether people used a broker or a bank.
And in the spirit of simplification, I think the only thing that brokers can offer to customers that banks directly cannot offer is mortgages that are looser in lending criteria, meaning that people who cannot and should not be given those large mortgages can get through if they go through the brokers. So that's the only value add, in my opinion. So people who can't get mortgages with banks directly can find a broker who can get them a mortgage. That's my maybe over, but certainly a simplification of the mortgage industry. With that, once again, thanks for watching and we'll talk again next time.